entire week-long course about it. So I'm just trying to go through as much as possible. So we'll define social media marketing, what personal brand statements are, and how to utilize your audience, sharing some statistics and like calming your nerves, hopefully. So did you know that there are actually 3.2 billion social media users? And I'm saying that because that's 42% of the population, and that also shows you what kind of reach that you guys can have, right? There is, and then there's also the fact that 24% of businesses don't have a formal marketing strategy. So that should also make you feel more at ease and know that it's okay that if you haven't had a marketing strategy, no big deal. Most people haven't started one either. 4.6 billion pieces of content are published daily. And out of all of that, only 2% on LinkedIn is actually original content. So that could easily make you an outlier if you start creating that content. I will throw content out a lot as a word, and that could be either just word-based posts, video-based posts, or photo-based posts. Then there is also 212 social media platforms. I'm not saying you should focus on all of those, but I tell it to you just so you can kind of realize how big the digital marketing, digital media world is, and that it reminds you that each person has a place and each person can find a specific platform that fits their personality the best or their hobbies the best, which I think is extremely important. So a couple other things about our main platforms is there's 500 million daily users on Instagram, and 83% of those users actually have found new products or services. And then and most of those also are mobile users. There's 57% of users on LinkedIn are actually mobile users as well. And statistically, 30% of the company's engagement on LinkedIn comes from their employees. So heavily emphasizing making sure that your employees want to share your information, because I mean, each person has, say we all have 200 followers, then each time that they share that information, they're sharing it to those 200 followers, and then maybe it like catches them, you know? So just utilize the people that work with you, and it will help you grow organically. 77% of users on Twitter feel more positively about the brands that react to them. So I don't know if you guys heard of Slim Jim, which is just a jerky. They have a huge Twitter following because of the fact that they have witty banter, or they actually respond, and that's just something kind of cool. Obviously, we are in a smaller niche because we are in the commercial real estate industry, but it still kind of intertwines together. 62% of consumers are more likely to like trust a company with a social media presence, because most of the time you will either think, one, are you guys hiding something? Or two, wow, you are completely outdated. And then also 75% of these consumers will make a rash decision on your company by your website design. So even though that's not necessarily social media, it's still digital media as a whole. 62% of users, or 62% of businesses actually use YouTube. So if that isn't something that you guys are already utilizing, then you should for sure at least start considering it. So how often and which platforms do you guys use for business the most? That should be a poll question that should be popping up around now. And also, does your current organization or yourself have a social media strategy? I'll also do it. And then we're going to just go into a breakout room, and then we'll talk about the results whenever they come out. So nice. So whenever we go into these breakout rooms, I would love to talk about if you knew of any of these statistics and facts, and maybe just some thoughts. Are we gonna go into a breakout room? Okay, I wasn't sure. Hello, hello, hello.
It does say that. I'm not sure though.
I can actually just go on to if we want. So, and that's what I'm just going to do. So 2020 from a bird's eye view is basically, it was filled with fear and doubt and uncertainty. I mean, that was either because of job stability, or it was because of the world just going through this pandemic, you know, and a lot of people did actually leverage social media, and there was a lot of changes. I mean, a lot of us were started to work from home because we had to. Some people got laid off because their company wasn't making they just couldn't support their employees, you know? And so that left people wondering, how can I, one, either continue the conversation with my current clients because I can't be with them in person, and then two, how am I going to find a new employer? And we were able to pivot and utilize social media, and it just kind of showed that the digital media world isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's becoming more prominent. 62% increase usage of Facebook, and 27% on LinkedIn, and 34% on Twitter. So that, again, just very content heavy, so sorry. But so like, what is a social media platform? I keep saying it. Most of you, I'm sure, are aware, but it's a platform that is interactive, and it facilitates sharing ideas and career interest and other expressions. And social media platforms could be either social networking, so like a Facebook, or photo sharing, which is like an Instagram, or video sharing, which is a YouTube, microblogging, which you can utilize WordPress, and Reddit or some. Then the question is, why use it, right? So you can download most of these things for free, and you can utilize most of them for free, which makes it one of the most cost-effective things to do. Obviously, we can get into some other avenues where you can spend more money, but that's not necessarily my focus. It's an easy way for you to get that global audience. So instead of having a billboard on the side of the road where you don't know if anybody's going to see it and or pay attention to it, at least you can have a wider audience and penetrate new markets. And you can also engage with people and make it a little bit more personable. And you also get actual insights that are at your fingertips. So most of these platforms will say how well you're doing, especially if you are in, if you like what we call upgrade to a business page.
Pretty pie, sit down,
So
please.
then,
Good job. Now pause it, eat, and then you can continue.
Come
on,
and then
please.
so you can also utilize social media with.
You want a little bit of chicken and rice?
Which, so you can utilize the platforms to get more information on some of your competitors. You can get information about some future employers or maybe employees that you might want to work with. You could see that they are being the leaders and they're posting quality content that makes sense to you, you know. Change. So there's a couple different types of media, and that is owned media, paid media, and earned media. You should be utilizing all three, if not at least two of them. And if you utilize all three, then you basically have the perfect storm. So owned media is something like a blog or your site or some of your social media that you provide. Paid media is something that you would do for like a pay-per-click or a Facebook ad, or maybe even some paid influencers. Again, I don't feel like paid influencers are necessarily relevant to our industry necessarily, but again, I just want to give you guys as much information as I can. And then earned media is the traction that you get from posting quality content. So that's reposts or mentions or shares or tags. And again, you can utilize your employees for that. So now we kind of know what social media platforms are and how they kind of work. And then so now we get into what a marketing strategy is. And it's a plan, an action-based plan to sell your products or services. So you will need to do a couple of things before you really start strategizing, and that would be market research. So that is, say, who else is selling what you're selling, maybe see if it has any interest, and then you also figure out who you want to target. So for me, it's any company at this point, or person that doesn't have a presence. But for like Mike, he wants a property manager or a facility manager or maybe a business owner. And for Sandra, it could be maybe potential tenants, or it could also be vendors, you know. Then you would have to analyze like what are your competitors doing well and what are your competitors not doing so well. Like where can you find a place? And then you got to think of budgets, right? So time is money. So you have to also kind of consider that. So how much time are you willing to spend on this? Or are you willing to spend money with a specialist that will help you walk you through all of these things? And then you don't have to take all that time to learn all of the gadgets and everything on your own. And then you have to figure out what your goals are. So like, what is it that you're trying to do? Do you want to get 1,000 followers by the end of the year? That's doable, and also it makes sense. Maybe your goal is to find one good client. Then that is also a measurable goal. You would know exactly when you got it. Just make sure that they have timelines that would make sense, because it's not fair for a professional, or even say you utilize an employee in-house, if they start posting for 10 days and then nothing happens, that wouldn't necessarily make sense to expect more, because it does take some time to be consistent, and it does take time to gain that traction. And it's kind of like a snowball effect, because whenever you start getting attention, then it kind of follows suit. Again, as long as you have your consistency. And so I like to reference your social media as like a reality TV show. I use The Bachelor, and I'm just going to keep saying Bachelor because it is less confusing for me. So say your social media of choice is the show. You are the Bachelor, and you are the focus of the show. And then the datees are your followers and potential followers. And then the rose that is given to that person is you giving that consistency, you giving that engagement, and you giving that value. So what's in a rose? The consistency runs into trust, and then trust runs into engagement, and then engagement and runs into relevancy. And all of those will mean that you guys will have more of that brand awareness. And then the more that you guys will pop up in the algorithm, and the more that people will have the ability to find you. And then you can also utilize hashtags and everything like that. So how often do you guys post? It should be a question. And then, so now we kind of went over some consistency, what the social media platforms are, a little bit of the facts. So why are you here? What made you want to either join today's event, or why do you want to start having a social media platform? So is it your goals? Is it to grow your business? Is it maybe you have a side hustle, or are you looking for another employee, or are you just trying to keep up with the Joneses because it's there, you know? And then we should be breaking out into a breakout room so we could do it, talk about it. Yeah. Hey, I don't know what's happening either. Share. Trying to reopen my others. Good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed your guys' breakout room. On my end, we talked a lot about how it keeps you guys relevant, and how some people have battled that fear of keeping business and pleasure separate, right? But something to keep in consideration is that you can still have a Facebook, and then only keep professional people utilizing your business page. So that's just something to kind of think about. You could use your personal to make that business page, and I'm happy to walk any of you guys through it if you guys want to reach out to me. And then at that point, you can kind of use Facebook as more of a LinkedIn page, and just keep it professional. So that is something to consider. And then now I'm going to kind of go into the pros and cons of both, just social media as a whole, you know. I can do that. So some of the great things are flexibility. You have it at your fingertips. You can evolve with it. You can grow with it. You can obviously, again, utilize different platforms to have different parts of your personality. So again, that's the reason why I showed you guys my 3 platforms that I have, which is a very fitness based, very professional based, and then also my own company, you know. And you can always completely scrap all of your content and then start from scratch, you know. So you guys are butterflies together, or caterpillars and butterflies together. You can use it as a tool to bring that awareness. Again, that was something that we just talked about that I think is very important. You can start real conversations with people that you wouldn't have normally had the opportunity to, whether that be about inclusion, or maybe it's about a hobby that you're super passionate about, or maybe a cause, you know. Then there is the fact that you can start being looked at as an expert in your field. So again, great content means more value, which means more followers that find value into that. Plus, you can make friends, whether they're in our industry or across the nation, and you can make money, which is obviously one of our biggest concerns. You know, I mean, influencers can make around $30,000 to $100,000 dollars annually. And that's just by not even having a real job, technically. It's just being an influencer. You can also utilize your email campaigns, which is, again, not necessarily social media, but you can utilize social media to get a bigger emailing list. And then emailing campaigns can usually, on average, it increases conversion rates by 18%. And again, that's just kind of reminding them, be like, hey, we haven't set up a preventative maintenance, or hey, you haven't signed over your new contract, or whatever that may be. And you can also use these tools to learn, which that could be, again, for personal purposes or business purposes. I use TikTok a lot recently for like fun life hacks too. So it's something to consider. Some bad things about it is that, yeah, you do start to kind of compare yourself. You might start getting into this self-implosive thought of, I'm not doing good enough, or I am not doing enough, or maybe you are have too much screen time and you aren't in the present moment anymore. So that is a downfall. Or maybe your posts aren't getting liked immediately, and that also discourages you. Or maybe the sites are too political, which also makes sense, because one of the highest rated story-based media on Facebook is to politics, and also it's becoming more widely used for like the news and live interaction. So I get it, but you can also just delete the people that are posting too many politics, and you could block them, or maybe hide them for a bit and then just go back into it. And some people just think creating content is too hard, which is fair, but I'm gonna give you guys tips on how to help you guys create more content and also plan so you can be consistent. And then some people just don't know how to use it. I feel like that's definitely like a lot of people at this point. So just know that you're not alone, and like, stop beating yourself up about it. Stop saying, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, I'm doing it too late. Like, how am I going to stand out from everybody else? How am I going to find a new employer? If I just started today, just start. You know, like, you don't know what benefits you can have unless you actually try to take those benefits and like reap them for yourself. So I like this link because I thought it was really funny and I felt like it made sense. You guys can still see my screen, right? Okay.
In life that you should have known earlier, but you just didn't.
No one knows what they're doing.
We can't see that.
Everyone is just.
Oh, you can't see it? Okay. Well, you don't need to see it, but can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, then that's fine.
Just making stuff up as they go along. That thing that you haven't done or tried because you're like, oh, those people, they know stuff that I don't know. No, they don't. Other than like pilots or doctors and probably some other jobs. But if you want to be like in the entertainment industry, or you want to do something creative, or you want to be an entrepreneur, fake it till you make it.
What? And I 100% agree. Hopefully you guys do too. Again, practice also makes perfect. So don't be super hard on yourself, because there's also professionals that do a lot of these things. But I like to say, if Karl the Fog can have their own social media presence, then so can you. Karl's literally Fog, and it has its own personality. And recently they haven't been super active, but that's also the reason why now that there's Carlita, which is Karl's like girlfriend, because somebody else picked up that they knew that there wasn't any activity, so they're stepping up and showing out. So then we are going to just start breaking down the social media platforms and the life cycle of what the social media marketing strategy is. So first, you got to figure out who you're going to be talking to, right? Figure out who you want to start engaging with you. Then you create that marketing strategy, utilizing those people and focusing your content on what you think that they would want to pay attention to. And then you figure out like, what kind of tools that you'll need to make sure that you are consistent, to make sure that you are productive and not spending a couple hours on a single post, because there's no point into that, because that's just wasting time. And again, I'll give you some tools a little bit later so it can like pre-post stuff for you. Then you implement the plan, track and measure it. I would still suggest at least 90 days to get like a real idea of what's happening and what's changing. And then you listen to the feedback of your followers. Maybe your followers don't necessarily like the content that you're pushing out. So just, you can easily go onto an Instagram story or a Facebook story and say, do you like what I'm posting? And then they could say yes and no, you know? So that's just an idea, and then you adjust it accordingly, and then maybe you have to just completely implement a new strategy altogether. But again, allow it time to start working, allow it to be an actual process and trust that process. If you're being consistent and bringing value, there's no way that you're not going to get at least some interaction, you know? And then, so the top 6 platforms are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And that's utilized for businesses, which is what I'm going to be going over next. I didn't include TikTok as an entire slide. Again, I just want to respect your guys' time. And it's, again, I feel like it's a lot of information that I'm talking to you guys at. So Facebook, it's the most prominent. Most of us have it. 56% of people actually have it. And you can reach 1.9 billion people. So that's throughout the entire world, right? So especially for the people that are national companies, then even better. Then I'm going to re-emphasize that 96% of the users are mobile. And that means that you definitely need to make sure that your websites, especially if you are, if your clients or your ideal client would go to your website, like make sure that it's mobile friendly. Then also most photo-based posts are engaged with more. So it gets a lot more traction. And that's just because digital media as a whole is just a visual platform in all shapes or forms. Then we go to YouTube. It is the ultimate video media platform, and 79% of users have a YouTube, and that's usually because it's connected to your Google. So if you have a Google account, then you also have a YouTube account. Whether or not you utilize it, that's neither here nor there. 70% of users actually watch YouTube on a mobile base, and 90% of those people that utilize it actually have found a new product or maybe a new service because of that value. So definitely consider utilizing it, and you could utilize it in a way of either making a web series, or making a web series about a project that you're working on, or maybe it is showing off your properties. It doesn't matter. You can be so experimental with all of these things, and everybody can take social media with different perception, you know, and utilize it completely different. Then we have Instagram. It's definitely one of the most visual platforms. I think some of the most successful Instagrams always have kind of a theme and like a color theme. And so that's whenever like brand identity comes into play. But there are 500 million daily users, and Instagram is one of those platforms that they get just more interactions and with people that follow them. So they're more likely to double click and like your photo, or they're more likely to respond to your stories than some of the other platforms. And then 50% of users follow at least one business account. So that's maybe be that one account that they follow. It's just a thought. And then there's Twitter. Kate called it the blah platform, and I loved it because you really just blah whatever you want. And again, it depends on what kind of personality you want to portray in this Twitter space. But there are 500 million tweets a day. 80% of them are utilizing mobile, and 83% of the world's leaders are actually utilizing it. I mean, obviously, you guys all knew that our old president got banned from Twitter, and he was always doing controversial posts, but that also created that brand awareness. I mean, he had his own before, but it's just the reality. And then we go into LinkedIn, the most professional, obviously. I think that if you are still having that battle between being professional and then also having friends and keeping those lives separate, then at least make sure that you have a LinkedIn. 57% of those users are mobile as well. So again, just re-emphasizing, make all your content mobile friendly, and then you can kind of just like include it on all of the platforms that you want to utilize. Companies that post weekly on LinkedIn are twice as likely to get engagement. So that means that you guys will pop up higher onto people's feeds. And if you guys are looking for jobs or employees, 3 people are hired through LinkedIn every single minute. And 40 million people use LinkedIn for job searches a week. So there is that ability to grow as a professional and also as a company as a whole. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And then now we're going to go into a breakout room, and then we'll go over what we learned so far, and then which platforms will you start using, or will you start using one more now because of this?
To network with folks and what have you. So I'll be doing that soon.
Nice. Okie dokie. So now we've figured out which platform you're going to use or focus on. Then you can really start thinking of what your personal brand statement is. What is a personal brand statement? It's basically an elevator pitch for you and your personality and what you are trying to push. So it tells your audience who you are and how you're going to help them, or what your aspirations are. And then you can actually utilize that in your LinkedIn tagline or your resume or other social media bios. Again, it kind of just shows whoever's looking at it if they're in the right space. So yeah, that's just something to consider. And then now we can start going into some of the do's and don'ts. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we just because, again, time. So for sure, start building your personal brand and figuring out who you want to talk to. Start developing valuable content, and don't be afraid to be experimental. I mean, LinkedIn is even starting those stories. I haven't been using them every day because I also don't want to yet. But it is something that you can utilize, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. that doesn't necessarily have to follow your normal feed. It could just, stories are something that lasts for 24 hours. And so say you wanted to blast out about an upcoming meeting, or maybe you wanted to blast out an upcoming event and you don't want it to necessarily be on your page, but you can have it right there, like in your stories. And then share tips that are relevant to your industry and your brand, and share the love. Like that's one of the biggest things, is that you create friendships and also partnerships with people by helping them, and then they help you in return, you know, which goes into my don't. So like, you can promote yourself, you can promote your company, but don't forget to like think of other people. And I feel like that's just a good rule of thumb for life, because nobody wants to hear you just talking about all the great things that you can do and everything. And especially, again, if you're going into more of that professional side of things, don't drink and post. I'm sure, have done some embarrassing things in our life, and we just don't want to amplify that with alcohol. It's just a fun rule of thumb that I think we could all learn from. And always try to respond to people that comment on your stuff. Again, the more engagement that your post has, the more relevant you will be in the algorithm. So the more likely that you will be showed up higher into that. Obviously there's bots and stuff too. You can delete those if you want. Those don't count, but that's just a thought. And then some of the best practices are pretty much just posting around lunchtime and on LinkedIn the first thing in the morning, because everybody grabs their phone and they want to do a quick recap of the day. So those are just some ideal times. And then remember, consistency is key. Again, you gotta build that relationship. And if you're not consistently posting or bringing that value, people will stop paying attention, you know? And then again, if you're in a professional setting, you don't want to post anything that your mom would be ashamed of, you know, like it kind of goes hand in hand with that don't drink and post comment. And another very important thing is just to be authentically you, be yourself, and share things that you are passionate about. Don't try to post something every day just because you want to post something every day, or like that you think that you have to. If it becomes less authentic and not in your normal like language or speak, like people will also notice that. So these are some demographics that you guys will have. I'll actually send this out to everybody, or Noel will send this out later. So this is just there was a poll of men and women, and so it's 62% of males would be using Facebook, and so that's just how you can read it a little bit later. And then I have a reading list for you guys, just for ideas. For sure, I would recommend branding yourself, because that goes into a lot of the different social media platforms and how to utilize them, and some ideas that kind of elaborate on some things that I've touched on. I have Unbleep Yourself, because it talks about productivity and getting yourself out of this negative mindset, because again, especially utilizing social media, there is a lot of those negative thoughts that can arise. And yeah, so just definitely something to consider. The power of habit. Social media is going to be a habit. It's, again, that consistency. It's almost like if you're going to the gym and you only go to the gym once, you're not going to get the results that you want immediately. But if you go at least twice a week, then great, even better, you know, like at least you're starting that habit and then making it a routine. And then a lot of you guys might have some issues writing, or not sure how to write a caption. Everybody Writes is a great option to help you kind of go through some of the writing prompts. And then Think and Grow Rich just for anybody that has that entrepreneur mindset, like you should definitely at least consider it, you know. And then I have some apps to consider. I included the top 6, or actually top 5 of the platforms, which are Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. But I also included LinkedIn Learning. So if you guys are a premium member, then you guys can also utilize LinkedIn Learning as an app to learn about anything and also enjoy like some keynote speakers and everything like that. Canva is a platform that will help you create content. There's actually several other apps that you can utilize. I just wanted to keep the list short because I use a lot of them actually. But Canva is definitely very user-friendly and keeps things engaging and makes things pop. Hootsuite is a platform that can help you schedule out tweets. So something that you can think about is that maybe you want to use Twitter and just post industry relevant information. And then you find links and then you just add it onto Hootsuite, and then you can say, I want it to be posted at noon tomorrow. Then you're done. And now you're starting that consistency program. I incorporated Slack because I do want to utilize our Slack forum that BOMA Oakland East Bay has. And then we can kind of continue that conversations and we have, so we can maybe make another group to be only about social media and we can just talk about that, you know. And then Snapseed and PhotoGrid are video editors, or not video editors, photo editors that you can utilize. And yeah, so just another great tool. So now it's your turn. Now you guys can start making your own branding statement and then utilizing the platforms that you've already kind of set in your mind. And I think I have a poll question that's supposed to come up right now, which is if you guys did enjoy it, hopefully you guys did, we can go into deeper dives of each platform. Would you guys be interested? And if yes, which ones? And then the other thing was we challenge you. So like I said, Noel will be sending out Instagram, or not even just an Instagram, but just a social media challenge that I have for you guys that would give you prompts for the month of April. And so they do follow some of the national holidays. So it kind of gives you an easy photo prompts, and then you can kind of utilize that. Just make sure that you hashtag BOMA Oakland East Bay or tag us so we can make sure that you guys, that we see it. And just remember to be consistent and stay engaged and have fun, you know? So yeah, and then obviously we can utilize the BOMA Oakland East Bay Slack, and you guys can reach out to me at any point with any questions because I'm happy to help.
And I'm in the chat. It looks like Eric Brown has a question. What are your thoughts on surveillance capitalism?
I don't really have thoughts about that.
So
Was that
for those who don't know what surveillance capitalism is, it's basically targeted marketing. So like if you notice, like you'll be talking with one of your friends about, you know, these new boots that came out, and then you go on Instagram and all of a sudden there's ads for the same boots you were just talking about, and you're like, what the heck is this? And how is this going on?
You can
so
actually,
I always thought it was interesting.
you can actually turn off that targeted marketing through Google.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
Like through Chrome?
Like how?
Just like your account information. I have like a thing. I just can't. I would have to walk you through how to do it, but
That happens to me though. Like I'll be in Nordstrom and I'll like add things to my cart or something online. And then I'll be on Facebook later that evening and it's like, did you forget something in your cart? And I'm like, how does
Again-
Facebook know that I was shopping earlier, like in Nordstrom? It's like
Yeah.
everything is so
They know
linked
everything.
together. They do.
They
So
know
that's-
when you
that's a
left your
great question.
car. They know when you left your house.
Yeah. Are you still looking to go out of town next month? And it'll be like, you know, the area that I was searching for or whatever.
Yeah, but then you also like you have to remember what you're clicking accept on. So like accepting those cookies and accepting that privacy block or what or lack thereof. So just remember that. Maybe I'll post later on how to get off of the Google ads and stuff like that, the targeted marketing. I'll maybe just put in Slack so you guys can pay attention to it.
That would
Do you
be a
guys have-
great thing to include when we're sending out the slide deck. We are a little over time, so I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Vanessa for this presentation and thank all of you for participating and being really game and discussing everything in your breakout groups. So just as a reminder, we have our golf tournament on April 19th, and you can sign up on our website. And if you run into any issues, please reach out to BOMA staff like myself. Thank you, everyone, and that concludes our program.